Job 9:24, and it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Call Halal, Yahweh by Hashem El Shai, by Hashem Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops, salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathens that look like the heathens. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson. And it's a couple videos that I've come across, and they're pretty disturbing because this is what they're trying to do. Now, the beauty of it is that we know that they're going to fail, but there is certain levels of this that they're going to achieve. And I'm just going to play, like this first video here, I'm just going to play a few minutes of it and bring out a couple scriptures. And then the second video, I'm probably going to let play for a while, about 10 minutes of it. And then I'll, bring out a couple scriptures and wrap it up. But this is information that, that Yasharallah needs to see and hear. So without any further ado, the name of this video is This Is Crazy. This is all happening soon. WEF issues huge warning. Now remember, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, these are your true rulers of the world, and they're primarily Edom, primarily Amalekites, small hatters, and these unelected officials have basically made power moves and stolen control over the earth with technocracy. Technocracy is replacing democracy. All right, and technocracy meaning tech. Ruling with tech and pseudoscience. All right, and we can see what's happened to the air, the water, the food. How it's being destroyed, the land, the forest. Life is being destroyed by these people, but yet they try and play this role as if they're helping and saving the world, and it's all hypocritical. It's all for control and power. All right, so here we go.
Let's go ahead and jump into this rabbit hole. For a group called the World Economic Forum, it seems as if they really don't do a whole heck of a lot for the world or the economy. They have a lot of forums, at least that is what they do have. But what are their goals for the world? They want us off of fossil fuels and into electric vehicles, which are in essence also powered by either coal or fuel. Do you guys think that our electric grids run on wind or solar? These same electric vehicles that they want us to all pile into will also have kill switches.
Now let me put this out there too. I do have some of the images. You can probably go search and find them yourselves, but there's nothing new under the sun. They had motor scooters, electric scooters, electric powered motor scooters and vehicles in the early 1900s. Right now, we're talking about Model T era. All right. I saw pictures of buses and cars that were plugged up to power charging. All right, at the World's Fair in the late 1800s, going into the early 1900s, they had electric walkways, electric cars, all that. But the plan was to rule over the world, and they decided to go with oil. So it was no accident that Saudi Arabia was connected to the petrodollar, to the American dollar, and then they got dominance and control. Now looking back at it all and seeing what has happened, it's easy to see that was the plan all along. And now at the end, when the dollar's collapsing, as we'll see in the second video, they're trying to bring in this electric stuff that they already had. All right, but this time with the electric stuff, the kill switches. The technology is different this time. All right, so let's let them continue. Just wanted to add that out there.
You remember that? The government will probably have the power to turn off your engine at any point in time that they deem necessary from some remote location. What else? Oh yeah, they want us to ditch the consumption of meat while they tell farmers to kill their own livestock. In exchange, we get to eat bugs.
This is
At
some
first
sick
glance,
shit.
it looks like a normal hamburger, but it's not just any old burger, because half of the meat patty consists of ground up insect larvae. Student Vera Buckelman tried out the Bucks
That's a
burger.
small header name.
Dry, but it has nice flavor, and I think I would recommend it to my friends. Yeah.
The main ingredient in Vera's Bucks burger is ground lesser
You see
mealworm,
that shit?
the larvae of the darkling beetle.
The world truly is. This is Daniel 4:17, and it reads, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers and their demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of man, and giving it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basis of man." This base, low man is now the ruler of the world. To the slap in the face as punishment to the world's chosen and to the rest of the nations, because all nations are above Esau, Edom. They're the basis, they're the lowest of the low. But yet they're ruling and controlling and had everyone bowing down to them and following their ways to the point to where these people want to make you eat bugs, and surprisingly, a good portion of the people are willing and ready to do it. It's utterly amazing. All right. Let me go to the book of Judith, because and then Esau also knows, because according to the Bible, when the Israelites go home, the world will be seeking to them for knowledge and will be following their ways. Well, clearly this isn't kosher. So the people in the land of Israel can't be the people of the Lord. Because if that was the case, the world will be following after them. And what they do, all manner of abominations. They've even koshered pig. All right, they've now koshered thing. They have women cantors now. They got so-called women rabbis now. They have the pink city. They do everything opposite of. It's funny how these people, try to defend the fact that Israel has a right to defend itself, but they can never defend their identity with the Bible itself. They always got to go to book and made up stuff from books that they wrote themselves, and go to things outside of the Bible, but never use the Bible to defend themselves, because if you actually go into the Bible is evidence against them. That's why they have other books, the Talmud and the Kabbalah and all this other stuff. All right, but let's go to the book of Judith, and this is the book of Judith, the 5th chapter, and I'm going to start at the 17th verse, and it reads, And whilst they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because the God that hateth iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into the land that was not theirs. And the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. But now are they returned to their power, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now, therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, that they sin against their God, let us consider this shall be to their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. So when we as a people are doing what we're supposed to do, and calling on the name of Yahweh Yahweh Shai, no weapon formed against us can prosper. But 2/3 of our people refuse to do that, including some of them that know that they're Israelites, because they want to call on those other names. So this base man understands he used our own book against us. Remember that. He studied this book to and fro, to the point to even claim to be us. Switched and changed things, removed this book that I'm reading from the Bible for a period of time, and hid from us what we needed to do to be right with our Lord. And he keeps us in sin, and by keeping us, having us eat worms and crazy shit like that, well, he knows that our Lord won't act for us, but not this time, right? Because too many of us are standing up. the Great Awakening is happening. So let's click to the next video. And it's this one with Lynette Zhang. This is Kitco video. And it says, your bank can legally seize your money. Too late to stop hyperinflation. The Great Reset. And so it's coming. So without any further ado, Michelle McCory and Miss Lynette Zhang.
The method to growing your tool
And
by
this dumbass
64%
commercial,
in a
sorry.
matter of weeks can be found in your kitchen. Are you afraid your tiny...
One of the big themes of this year's conference is how the dollar-denominated monetary order is being challenged in several ways, accelerating de-dollarization led by the BRIC nations, dollar debasement and devaluation with a potential total collapse of the system, a looming global reset, and central bank digital currencies. And my next guest, Lynette Zhang, has been one of the first to sound the alarm about all of these potential threats. Lynette, very good to have you with us.
Oh, Michelle, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Lynette, you have been warning about this since 2009.
Yes.
And Lynette is, of course, you're the chief market analyst at ITM Trading. You have almost 60 years of experience in the financial sector, including as an investment banker with Larsen Lehman and American Express. So you've been in the trenches.
I have been in the trenches.
The challenge, Lynette, is on what of the impending threats we should focus on, considering your work is, in a word, terrifying, but very important that we get this information out there. I also know that you're warning about how in the near term, not too distant future, our money in the bank is at risk of being co-opted by the banks in the form of a bail-in as opposed to a bailout. Before we get into that, and again, as I say, a lot of ground to cover, but why don't we start with your major thesis, and that is that we have reached the end of the currency cycle.
Yes, because what people don't realize is that everything has a life cycle. I'm at a different point in my life at 68 than my granddaughter who's about to turn 8. And currencies are no different than that. And there are recognizable patterns that we can see all along the way. But there is not one doubt in my mind. I mean, first of all, officially, there's roughly 3 cents in purchasing power left out of the currencies.
Wow. This is James 5:2. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eating. Your gold and your silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. You shall eat your flesh as it were fire, yet ye have heaped up treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them have reached and entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. That means lords of armies. Ye have lived in pleasure on earth and have been wanton, and you have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. So when you destroy a man's way of life and his wages, you kill him. And the fact that it's only 3% buying power of the dollar left shows you that it's done. All right? Because, $20 in 1913, as you see on the chart, got you a lot. It's not getting you, but a dollar basically gets you almost nothing. You could barely buy penny candy with the dollar now.
The original dollar's worth of purchasing power. So what happens when you get to zero? You have to go negative. They have to take your principal. And haven't they been testing that since 2009?
Well, and Lynette, as we discussed earlier, every single global reserve currency has lost its status. So it's only a matter of time, unfortunately, before the dollar gets dethroned. Before we break down how this collapse happens, I want to touch on one of the points that you made recently, and that is that our deposits in the bank are at risk of what you say is a bail-in, which has been sanctioned by the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, which said no more bailouts. 2008, we had governments bailing out the too big to fail banks. Now it's time for the depositors to step in. So break that down for us.
Well, for one thing, people have the assumption that when they make a deposit, that's their money, but it's not. When you make a deposit, legally, you are loaning your money to the bank. And in 1995, they enacted Regulation D, which legalized and enabled the banks to sweep your deposits into sub accounts that are in the bank's name and then use that as collateral for loans. And, frankly, most of the revenue that the banks generate, right?
This is Isaiah 10 and 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and write grievances which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that the widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And they're robbing the poor. This is an unrighteous decree that what they've just sanctioned, what she just explained to you.
Now is trading revenue, according to the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. So that just enabled them to reduce their reserves and to use your money to gamble with. You don't even realize it because it's invisible.
Well, in the post Dodd-Frank world, like you say, you're not simply a customer or depositor, you're actually legally classified as an unsecured creditor.
Exactly.
And legally, anyone that carries a balance over $250,000 by law can have the money directly taken from their account without permission to help the bank stay afloat if need be.
They'll take your money if you have less than $200,000 too. Don't get it twisted. If you got 50,000 or 100,000, 25,000, 10,000, or 5,000, they'll take a percentage of that as well.
Correct.
Why should we be concerned, though, that that moment could happen sooner rather than later, that the banks may need to resort to this?
Well, number one, if most of their revenue is generated by trading and not by lending,
And let you know, to just, you rest assured, when they start to do this, you're going to see people finally pick up their arms and riots in the street. It's going to get bad when they do this, and they know it. That's why they're preparing for that too.
and remember now, right now, central banks are raising interest rates to fight the inflation that they cause by their reckless money printing, right? Absolutely. And, and by the way, even though this says this is prop money, what are the ones that are issued by the governments? It's garbage.
Right.
Gold is real money, right? Everything else is just an imitation of it. But what we're seeing in the banking system is as they raise the interest rates, the system is falling apart because it's really been based upon a never-ending compounding of debt. And so the interest rates have been in a steady decline since the early 80s, and now they're anchored at zero. And central banks, when they tried to raise the rates in 2016, it was a big fat fail into 2019, wasn't it? They tried to raise the rates and then they couldn't. They dropped them all the way down. Now, with what they've done with interest rates, we've actually broken that, 40, 50-year trend line? That's significant. Anytime there is a pattern shift, you don't even have to understand what that means, right? But when there's a pattern shift, what that's telling you is that there is change afoot. And the bigger that pattern shift is, the greater the change that's coming.
Yeah. I've actually always wanted to have money rain down on me. Not quite like this, but, had to be more specific in my wish there. But fun and games aside, Lynette, this is very serious stuff. Because if you have over $250,000 in the bank can come and take it, and it's not an abstract concept. We saw that happen in Cyprus.
That's completely
in
wickedness.
Completely what
wicked.
they did in Cyprus too. The first bail-in took everything. They ignored the deposit insurance.
And there were crazy riots in Cyprus when they did that too. Difference is that Americans are heavily armed.
Scheme, which in the U.S. was put in 33 to get people comfortable with making the deposit in the banks, right? So they actually enacted that And at the same time, they separated investment risk-taking banks with deposit-taking banks. And then in 99, they eliminated that separation. So in 95, they enabled Reg D, which allowed them to sweep those funds underneath. And then just a few years later, they allowed the merger of risk-taking trading banks with deposit-taking banks. And now Wall Street really has full access to your deposits.
What would be the inflection point, though, that would make the banks need to do this?
Well, first of all,
how does that play out? Like, paint that picture for us.
well, it is a crisis, and a crisis of confidence. So if you attempt to run on the banks, well, they're going to stop you cold. And if we go back to what was happening in 2008 and 2009, people were losing a lot of confidence because of that crisis, right? But I think that what's really interesting, using Cyprus as an example, because that's really where they tested it. Number one, you can see where the French and German banks had been investing a lot of money in Cyprus. And then all of a sudden, in 2000, and I think it was 11, they took that money out. And so it looks like this peak like that. But the average person, the saver, this is what they call sticky money. So in other words, you're going to make that deposit and you ask yourself, when was the last time you changed banks? You don't. So that's really what makes you vulnerable, because you have confidence in the bank. You have that relationship.
Well, 2 points there. One point, correct me if I'm wrong, during COVID 2020, Regulation D was suspended in the sense of consumers were restricted to no more than 6 withdrawals per month from the bank as per Regulation D, and that law got suspended.
You should be able to do with your money as you please in a bank. Go back and forth. This is just pure wickedness, unrighteous decrees.
To allow consumers to be able to make more frequent withdrawals?
Yes, because they don't want you to know. And you might also recall that you had all these central banks bankers come out and do this whole floor show. You don't have to worry about your money in the bank, because there was a run that was starting. We can print as much money as you want. You can have all the money you need. And that's how they stopped it, by just printing more and putting it in the banks. I wish the central bank had run out of it.
Well, now it's not even paper. Now it's all digital.
No.
They don't even need to bother with paper. That may have constrained things a bit. But back to this regulation, and I know we're moving to the digital trend, and that we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
There it is, the digital trend. The CBDC, which is going to connect you to Revelation 13 and 16. All these things are coming down the pipe, and then later on in this video, she says this is gonna be done as early as June, somewhere toward the end of June. So you have to think about it. It came off electric. We had electric, technology for cars, buses, trucks, scooters. They got rid of it to prop up the dollar with the petrol oil. That was the plan. And now that, that thing is dying, they're trying to use, their own failed plan, trying to make it look as if they saved it, if they were trying to save it to do a good thing. But just in time for this new system to be set up, which was all being put in place, especially during the pandemic. All right. This is Revelation 13 and 16, and it reads, "And he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive an MARK in their right hand or in their foreheads." All right. "That no man might buy or sell, save he that hath the MARK, or the name of the BEST, or the number of his name." All right. So without that, you won't be able to buy or sell. And these people will be able to completely control you as for what you eat, what you buy, what you purchase, and your vehicles will have kill switches. So not only can they cut you off from spending money, if you try to get in your electric vehicle and just leave and get away, they can stop that. So you're gonna be connected to this grid, to this power thing, through the thing that's inserted in you. So with that, I'm gonna give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash, Wa Abba Kwam Yasharala Shalom.